I'm American, and like many other Americans, when we learn about the Vietnam War, we're usually taught about helicopters, napalm bombs, artillery, and the most advanced weapons of the 20th century. But there's a part of this war that I didn't truly understand until I got older. Until I read more documents and listened to the stories of veterans who were actually there. A huge number of American soldiers were not defeated by Vietnamese guns, but by things so simple, they're almost unbelievable. Here are 7 improvised weapons used by the Vietnamese Army that terrified American troops. In rural Vietnam, village roads often looked peaceful. Children going to school, people heading to the market, working in the rice fields. But when the U.S. military moved in on search and clear operations, those very roads became one of the greatest dangers. Punji pits were dug beneath the ground, lined with sharpened bamboo stakes, then carefully disguised with leaves and straw. Under normal circumstances, no one noticed anything at all, and by the time a soldier fell in, it was already too late. Many American veterans later said, "We were more afraid to take the next step than to face the enemy in combat, because the enemy wasn't standing in front of you. It was waiting right beneath your feet." It sounds like a joke, but wasps were actually used as weapons. In the jungle, once a nest was disturbed, the swarm would attack anything carrying a foreign scent. American soldiers, wearing uniforms covered in sweat, surrounded by the smell of metal, were easy targets. When the wasps burst out and attacked, panic took over. Soldiers ran. Pure instinct. And that was the moment they fell into other traps already waiting. No bullets had to be fired. All it took was chaos. At night, many American outposts felt completely secure. There were fences, guards on watch, heavy firepower, and then grenades started landing, with no one knowing where they came from. The Vietnamese used rubber and simple materials to build makeshift devices capable of launching grenades from a distance. After the attack, everything was taken apart, and they withdrew, silently. American soldiers fired back into the darkness, but in reality there was no target to shoot at. In war, not every bomb explodes. Many American cluster munitions hit the ground without ever detonating. The Vietnamese collected them, studied how they worked, and turned them into traps and mines. The very weapons dropped by the United States became a danger to American soldiers. One veteran later said, "We never saw the enemy, but people kept getting injured." In the mountains and deep forests, local people had generations of knowledge about plants and nature. Certain tree resins and natural toxins had been used for hunting for hundreds of years. During the war, that knowledge was adapted to protect villages and communities, not modern, not loud, but enough to make the enemy cautious of every arrow, every trap. The Nua Troy gun was an improvised weapon, firing fragments of metal, stone, or glass. It wasn't as accurate as a modern rifle, but at close to medium range, it was enough to cause casualties and create intense psychological pressure. More importantly, it showed that the Vietnamese did not rely on modern weapons supply chains. Helicopters were a symbol of American power in Vietnam. Fast insertions, fast extractions. But even that was never completely safe. The Vietnamese reused unexploded artillery shells, arranging them into clustered traps. When a helicopter came in to land, the rotor wash could trigger the entire setup. There were battles where American soldiers never even made it to the ground, before everything was already over. Looking back, I think what challenged America the most in Vietnam wasn't a lack of weapons or technology. It was facing a kind of war where every civilian was part of the conflict. Every piece of land could become a battlefield, and intelligence mattered just as much as firepower. The Vietnam War wasn't just a military conflict. It was a lesson about the limits of technological power when it confronts a people fighting to defend their homeland.